Anybody's got any questions, fire away, and we'll get rolling. I don't really have any injury updates. We'll know a lot more tomorrow, but nothing's changed with the exception of what we talked about after the game.
Anything change in your view of the offensive line performance?
No. Well, actually, they probably played a little better than I gave them credit for. Some of the stuff that I was concerned about after the game, without me watching the tape. So they improved from the last week. Let's put it that way.
Is that promising?
Sure. Yeah. Oh, they'll get better. Yeah. They'll each week, and some of what we're dealing with is trying to go through. We're going through a little bit of adjustment scheme wise based on our injury situation at wideout. It's a little adjustment for us that got thrown on us last week late in the week, and that's tough to do. So we have a little better feel for where we're at now.
Coach, you moved Cole Birmingham out to left tackle and Preston Wilson's back to guard. Can you talk about that decision to move those guys around and kind of redo that left tackle?
Well, it's just based on some of the changes we made with our personnel and trying to give ourselves the best chance. Some of it's based on a matchup of the teams we're playing. Each one of those guys, like Maturko's still young. And in most cases, years past, offensive linemen don't play until they're in your third year of your program. They redshirt, they're a redshirt freshman, a redshirt sophomore, start competing a little bit. Then their bodies change and they get mature. These guys are still really young. And so we're trying to move them around, put them in the best position to give us success based on who we're playing.
Mike, go ahead.
Have the running game struggles, was that something you expected coming into the year at a fall camp, or is this kind of surprised you guys?
It's a numbers game, right? So we lost a group of wide receivers. They play different coverages, put an extra guy in the box. It's very simple. If that guy's not in the box and he's back there playing pass, one less guy to block, one less guy that can make a tackle in a running game. That's as big a factor as any scheme that you draw up. It's a simple process. When the Giants won the Super Bowl and they had a great four-man pressure? Well, you're too young. You remember four-man rush? They played cover two. They won the Super Bowl because of four-man pressure. So it's a simple game. If you can cover, then you put extra guys and stop the run. If you can't cover, you got to back up to stop the pass, big plays, and fewer guys to stop the run. And so teams are ganging up a little bit on us based on the youth we have at wideout and that extra guys fitting in the run game. And that's really what it comes down to.
Hunter Woodard, what are your thoughts? Do you think you'll get him back?
I would hate to predict. I thought there was a chance Tate Martin was going to play. So when you have those type of injuries, it's really hard for me to predict what will happen. It's hard to tell.
You have a lot of stuff in your inventory, playbook-wise, and you've been prominently zone run game over the last several years. How much would you be comfortable digging back to some power stuff and even some play action? You would think Saturday, if you'd had some play action or more of it, you thought their safety would have bit up big. Yeah,
so it's obvious what we're dealing with right now. We have youth at Cowboy back and youth at receivers. Okay, so you're robbing Peter to pay Paul on just about everything you do. You can be a four wide receiver set and two short edges, and if you have skill outside there, they have to take a guy out of the box and defend the pass, and you can run the football. If not, then you're an 11 personnel team, and then it's run pass, which is pretty prominent across the country right now. And we're very young right now and not inexperienced at wideout. We all know that, and it's the same issue at Cowboy back. So that's kind of what we're dealing with at this time.
How tough is it as a coach with young guys for you to fully, I don't want to say trust them, but you have to do some hand-holding, you have to do some different things. How tough is that for you as a coach with all those young guys?
Well, it's not tough for me because I know what's going on. It's like I said the other day. I expect certain things from these young players at whatever position. And if they come up short, I get it. I understand it. And I know going in what they're going to do. I've been done this a long time. So Just like I said after the game, we had some drop passes and some alignment issues. That comes with inexperience. And then we also had guys make some really fantastic plays. That comes with good players that are inexperienced. So you get both. People that don't understand the game and just watch it, they can get concerned and have issues with it, but it's not with me because I know what we're dealing with.
After watching the tape, how do you assess Spencer's performance?
He played good. We didn't protect him as well in this game as what we wanted to, and obviously he threw one to a guy and he ran it in for a touchdown, but sometimes that's going to happen. If we'd have protected him a little better, I would have felt more comfortable with his play. But he still is a threat running the ball, and he makes plays running the football.
How important or how valuable was that to get that back in the offense?
I think a run threat is a big part of college football. You don't see a lot of Brandon Whedon style of offenses anymore, and guys that. If you're dominant up front and you have dominant receivers and really good running backs, you can run any kind of offense you want. Doesn't make any difference at all. If you have deficiency somewhere in the system, you have to find a way to make up for it. Like I always use the term with you guys, this is not a complicated game. So if you're deficient at wideout, you got to figure out how to keep wideouts going so you can rush the ball. If you're deficient at running the ball, you have to figure out how to run the ball somewhat so you can keep throwing passes. If you have a quarterback that's mobile, that allows you to do some of that because he can make up for the extra guy, right? If we have 6 people, 5 linemen and a Cowboy back to block, and they've got 7 people in the box, the only way that you can run the ball unless somebody just makes somebody miss is if the quarterback becomes a factor because they got one more guy than you do. Like the old vibrating football game, if you put more than they do over there, you got a chance to vibrate down the field. If you don't, you don't. It's the same concept. So you can pack them all in and put 9 people in there, and if they put 10, they still have one more than you. So defenses always try to get an extra guy in the run game, and offenses always try to make sure that guy's not in the run game. That's all there is to it.
Coach, last week in postgame you told us Tate Martin was kind of begging you to get out there, and you ended up giving him a series. Does that kind of take us a little bit into his mentality, maybe some toughness there? And do you like the example that sets for the young guys in that wide receiver?
Sure, yeah. I mean, we want guys that want to play, guys that want to get on the field and fight through pain. We play a game where players have to compete with injuries. There's a difference between being injured and being hurt. Sometimes guys that are hurt can play through it. Sometimes guys have injuries, try to, but they can't. So Tay's eager to get back on the field. He just wasn't ready.
What did you think of the defense after looking at the film? You were pretty high on it the other day. Did much change in your thoughts?
They played good, except we didn't get as good a pass rush as we needed to halfway through the third quarter. Up through the final 3 minutes of the game, we made some adjustments, and then we got back to being a good pass rush team. But we went through about 15 minutes of the game where we didn't have a good pass rush. So when you don't have a good pass rush, you're not going to be a good defense. So I liked what we did. We just need to improve that lull there and make sure we still get some sort of pressure on the quarterback.
4 defensive end set on the line. What did you like about that?
Well, it's more speed in the pass rush. So in a pure passing situation, we put 4 guys out there that have agility to makes it a little difficult for linemen to get their hands on and block compared to 2 bigger guys that aren't going to be as agile in rushing the quarterback.
Your thoughts on looking at them at this point? I know they're basically 3-3-5 personnel on defense, kind of multiple. They'll run some 4-man front. And then on offense, they look predominantly 11-12 and kind of similar to you guys a little bit, aren't they?
Their defense looks just like our defense. Multiple coverages, blitz packages, zone blitz. They'll play man. They'll run to some high 2. They'll play 3 cloud. They look almost identical to us on defense with scheme-wise. And then offensively, Boise has had a history of using 11 and 12 personnel, some bunch sets, do a lot of things, do a lot of shifting, do a lot of motion. they're very similar to what they've done for years in what they do. The quarterback's a good player. They have wideouts that make plays. They're a well-coached football team. They've done it for a long time, and this is a really good football team. This team should be ranked. I don't know. Hadn't seen the rankings. Don't look at them, but they're a top 25 team in my opinion.
Any concerns about the turf?
No. Not for me. I mean, I felt like Gene Hackman in Hoosiers. I felt like taking a tape measure and making sure they know it's 52.5 wide and 120 long. My personal opinion is that they have a unique situation there, which I think is pretty cool what they did. They kind of live in their own world out there, and they have their own way of thinking, and they've been good at it, and that was a neat addition for them, in my opinion. I mean, I've never been there. I don't know a lot of people from there, but just an outsider looking in, it's pretty cool what they did. But, I mean, essentially, the field needs to be the same for our guys, and our preparation and focus and getting ready to play and competing out there should overcome the color of the turf.
When you talk about young receivers, how much is Brennan a part of that group, and how much is he an older guy that you have higher expectations for?
Well, he's not an older guy. He's played in like a total number. If you look at his total number of plays, he's been in like 4 games in his career. He didn't play enough up to last year until November to even talk about. So he's on the team and he's practicing, but he's not playing in games. It's 2 different things, okay? So he's not anywhere near being a veteran player, in my opinion. He gets it. He understands we can do more things with him because of reps. But, you saw him drop a ball Saturday that, he should have caught. That's still youth, and things happen fast for those guys. But he's going to be fine. I mean, he's a threat in the return game every time he touches the ball, in my opinion. And as he gets more experience, he'll make more plays. And we do count on him. We do a variety of things with him because he has been around for a while. He just hadn't played a lot in games.
When you went back and watched it, how good was Bryson's catch down in the corner?
Down here, it was really good catch, and he's 215 pounds. He's big. He's physical. He's strong. He can use one arm to catch the ball and gather it and secure it to the ground. And so, those are the things you see that I talked about earlier. I said this in August. We have a good number of young players that a year from now and a year and a half from now are going to give us a pretty good group of 3 or 4 guys to be foundation-wise wideout. Right now, you're just seeing what they can do, but you're also seeing the mistakes they make with youth, and you're seeing both sides of it. He got smacked up pretty good twice trying to block, and he shouldn't because he's 215 pounds, but the reason he is because he's thinking. He's not being aggressive. And so that's what you get. But you see flashes of why we want him on our team, and then you also see times when they just got to get going a little bit with reps.
What were your thoughts on Spencer?
About what?
Just overall.
1, he competes. 2, when he runs the ball, he's dangerous. I'd like for him to not fumble the ball. He needs to do a better job with ball security. We didn't protect him as well as we should have. So that's always going to factor in with the quarterback and make a difference who that guy is, okay? So I thought he played good. If we had protected him better, he would have probably had a chance to play a little better. And we had some drops, right? There were some balls that went on the ground that shouldn't have gone on the ground in most cases with, the ball that he throws to 85 and he drops, if, Braden Johnson, that's his position. If he catches that, he scores. He's going to catch it and run and score. Then, the ball that BP dropped, that's the same position. And so if Spencer would have had a little bit better protection and had some mature guys out there, his game probably would have looked a little better.
I thought on the sidelines, and I mean, I've noticed it in practice, but on the sidelines, I thought his demeanor throughout, no matter what happened, was probably the best I've seen from him. You pay attention to
He got a lot better last year. We talked about it. First year it was rough. The second year was rough. Last year it was a lot better, and he's fine this year. He's grown up. He's matured. He's been there enough. He has a good relationship with Coach Rattay, and he's fine.
Coach Gundy, I know after LD's kickoff so essential to that play. What's it like to have a guy like Kanian on special teams who, maybe isn't always in the spotlight, but does his job and helps make plays like that?
One area that up to this point in the year that I told you guys early in August was I thought we'd be really good on special teams. And so far that's held to be true based on guys like Kanian. We have a number of 195 to 215 pound bodies that have experience and they can run and they can block and they can tackle, which is important to special teams. There were several blocks on that play. Kanian's just happened to be in space, and he's done this for years, so he gets it. He understands it. And obviously his block is the reason he was able to get from the 40 to the end zone. And his experience, just the inside, the integral part of playing the position he plays and the way they played him, knowing what to do, his experience paid off and allowed us to get a touchdown. And it changed the game. It won the game for us, basically. We won the game playing defense and special teams. And that big special teams play was huge. We lost the penalty yards by 10, but we won the return yards by 125. So we were 115 plus in those two categories. That's why we won the game.
You mentioned the inexperience at Cowboy back earlier. What have you liked from that group so far, and what are some things they need to continue to work on?
They're playing pretty good. Cassidy's not played before. And Austin Gerard just showed up here a couple months ago. So we're inexperienced at that position. But I like, from a missed assignment standpoint, they're pretty sound. They're just, learning and trying to develop and get a feel for the game. There's times they're getting knocked back. Once their technique improves and once they get a feel for the speed of the game and the strength of the game, that'll improve some, maybe in a month. So I'm pleased with where they're at, but I also understand where they're at in their career.
Does integrating them into the passing game come with that experience?
Who's that?
The tight ends, Cowboy backs.
Yeah, it does. There's things we do with them in the passing game. When you're deciding who's going to run the ball and who's going to catch the ball, in my opinion, you have to make a decision on. You have to have a pecking order based on those guys that can touch it and score. And our Cowboy backs traditionally haven't been as skilled as what we've had in the backfield on the perimeter. Doesn't mean there's not certain times they can't catch the ball, but a lot of it depends on matchups. You hear that term used all the time. Just watch an NFL game and listen how many times somebody will say, you see this matchup, you like that matchup. Well, he threw here because of this matchup. And so we do the same thing when we scheme plays. There's a lot of it's based on matchups.
With the new Big 12 members, have you had conversations with Todd Bradford and his guys about how that might affect your recruiting approach? Obviously, you've had success in Utah, Houston area too, but with Cincinnati and Florida, do you guys start kind of dipping into those areas too? Or?
Well, we haven't had that discussion yet because until 10 days ago, we didn't know this was going to move this direction. So it was basically a waste of time. And so, we knew a week ago that this was going to happen. So it's been talked about, but not anything worth talking about yet because we're a year or a couple years away from that league really coming together. I will say this, that we have brought 4 schools in from very heavily populated parts of the country with great viewership in different locations that we've never been in. And I say, when you talk about Central Florida, you talk about Cincinnati, and you talk about Houston, or you talk about huge populations in viewership from television. And then with BYU, you have their following with the church that's coast to coast. So essentially we hit a home run on this league, no question about it. How we try to attack it in recruiting, we would probably get a feel for how young men in Central Florida or in Ohio would feel about coming to school here and get a barometer and a feel for it, because I don't want to fly all the way across the country if I can get the same product within a 4-hour drive. And there's a lot of players within a 4-hour drive of us now. So we would have to feel the water and get a good idea of what the interest level is before we make that decision. A little easier to Houston because you get a direct flight, right? And a little easier to Salt Lake City because you get a direct flight. The other one's, a little bit more of a risk, but we'll see. Maybe we can find young men that makes the pool that we choose from a little bigger, that say, I'll come to Oklahoma State and go to school, but I don't want to go down there. And then then somebody says, well, you just flew over 50 schools to get there. Why would you go there? I mean, that's kind of the things we have to look at.
Beyond opening up new territories, I know since this broke out in July, there have been some negative recruiting going on about the future of the Big 12, who are they going to play against, so forth. When you take those 4 schools, and if you just look at what they did this weekend, they were pretty demonstrative, including that BYU win over Utah. How does that solidify you with your recruits now, what you're telling them about who they have a chance to play against and what kind of league this will be?
Well, I'm going to repeat myself now, but when I said we hit a home run in a lot of areas. The concern, which I said this in July, was not having a destination and landing point in recruiting to be able to tell young men this is who we are. That's an issue. I never tried to say it wasn't an issue. From the start, I said that is an issue. I didn't think we would have this accomplished until next year, which is what I said. I was wrong. But I also mentioned that no matter what, Oklahoma State's going to land somewhere and be just fine. There's too many things going here in football. Whenever this conference realignment starts, whatever it ends up, it might change again in 25. If you just start looking at where media rights are, could change again. Oklahoma State's going to be fine. We have too good of a product. We won too many games, and too many people watch us. So, but the way it turned out couldn't be any better, in my opinion, for the Big 12, for a Power 5 conference standing. And we all know that the budget becomes a big issue. So we're in a very solid and sound budget situation for years to come, until it starts to all turn over again in 25 or could be 24. Now I don't know. Nobody knows, but it probably will turn again. Oklahoma State will be just fine, because those are the things that, people talk about recruiting. You can hide it all you want, but you need to be in a Power 5, which we are. The Big 12's got a big name, which it is. And we now know our destination, and you don't get budget cuts in your athletic department. It's a big deal. So we took care of all that. Now moving forward, Central Florida, based on being in our conference now, it's only going to get better for them. I mean, they're located in a huge population. They've got great football in that part of the country. They already have 70,000 students. And BYU is, in my opinion, looked at as a Power 5 conference school, their logo, for a long time. And they have a huge following from coast to coast. And you have Cincinnati now that's played well for a number of years, and they have a huge populated area and a great big television market there. So now, how is that going to improve their logo? I bet it improves their marketing people. I'm just guessing are fired up at Cincinnati now to start marketing that for their logo. And then Houston has been wanting in our league for a number of years, right? Supposedly. And they're sitting right in the Big 12 country, and they got tons of population and tons of high school football to recruit from, and a lot of viewers down there. I mean, the only thing, they battle the Astros and the Texans, but and the Rockets, but for the most part, it couldn't have happened any better for Oklahoma State and the remaining 8 schools, in my opinion. And I don't want to speak for those other schools, but I know for Oklahoma State, the future's a home run.
In your experience, how much does it matter to 19 and 20-year-old kids, or I guess even younger recruits, that when they're looking at schools, how much does that Power 5 label matter to them?
It matters to them. Yeah, young people nowadays are into those things, which people in my generation would say doesn't really matter. But your generation likes those kind of things. So we have to adapt to your generation, because that's the generation we're recruiting right now. They like those kind of things.
How important do you think, just for Middle America, is it that it has a Power 5 conference? Because it could be called, where it not exist anymore. They go out west, they go out east. How important is it that Middle America still has a conference?
This can go on and on. The economic value of this conference staying intact for Stillwater, Waco, Dallas-Fort Worth's a little different with TCU, but Manhattan, Lawrence, okay. It's important a lot of ways. When you talk about economy and restaurant business and just all the things that keep these areas turning, this was a huge get for, I'm going to speak for Stillwater, because I know a lot of people in Stillwater that are in private business and small business owners and not even that, some of your bigger businesses, companies that are here. It's a big deal for us to stay sound in a big conference and play football games. And so to answer your question, in my opinion, from an economic and a marketing value for what you're talking about, is very important that we try to establish what the presidents and the ADs and the Big 12 was able to get accomplished.
Coach Gundy, I meant to ask him about this on Saturday, but I know Coach Dunn likes to travel to Idaho quite a bit. Has he given any kind of tips about spots you all need to see, or how much is he looking forward?
Well, he likes Idaho. He's from there, and his wife's from there, and he's building a retirement home there, I think, last I heard. But on our trips, we get on a plane, we get there, we go to the hotel, we start working again, we eat. We work, we go to bed, we get up, we work, doing meetings, go play. So very seldom do we ever leave the facility. I'm sure it's a beautiful place up there, but I doubt we'll get very far from the hotel.
Anything else for Coach? You had mentioned Saturday the fact that SEC kind of has clamped down on Houston area recruiting. Do you think it'll take a few years, to get the OSU's brand down to face Houston to finally start to get back into creating a pipeline down there?
We've had a number of players from Houston forever, and I'm not sure that they've just locked it down, but they've gained ground just based on the geographical location of where everything is. And Houston's pretty far east. So my point in that was we have to make a decision as to his question of recruiting is a business. We get a certain number of days, a certain number of hours that we can go out and try to sell our product. And the poor example I use is just like door-to-door vacuum cleaners. I can't spend all my time somewhere going door to door where they're not going to buy any vacuum cleaners, or I don't get to pay rent and eat food. I'm broke. So that's a poor business decision. So we have to decide what geographical locations in the country based on this realignment give us the best chance to sell quality vacuum cleaners so we can keep our company running. Well, that's what it is in recruiting. So we're just going to have to see. I said that the other day because now you have Texas. They're in there. They're in South Central. So you have them and A&M all the way sweeping down through there. So I think most of us would agree it'd be a little tougher based on them jumping in that league. Not to say you wouldn't do it, but you just have to decide where your strengths are. And we'll still go into Houston. We'll always recruit Houston. It's just a matter of how much we do based on what the mental approach is with all the young men we're recruiting down there. Good? All right, guys. Have a good one.